Guys, in this video, I'm going to cover my experience with Pistol 1. I'm not going to spoil any of the secret sauce, and if you want to see that, head over to WPSN. However, the point of this video is to tell you what to expect going in as a student, and then I'll talk about my personal experiences, my key takeaways, and what I've been working on since taking Pistol 1 to make myself a better shooter. But let's go over what I actually did in the class to help you understand what to expect. The class runs for about 8 hours with a 30-minute break in there for lunch. And guys, I'm going to edit in B-roll clips for everything. I wasn't able to take really any footage that day because the class is so packed full of stuff. There just isn't time to be messing around with camera equipment. So I'll edit in B-roll where necessary to help you describe things, but it's obviously not going to look exactly like what you see in this video. Most of the class takes place shooting within 5 to 7 yards. You start the class with a lot of safety, but Paul will teach you the WPS method for loading and unloading your weapons. And safety is definitely paramount and a big part of Pistol 1. To warm up, you'll shoot 6 rounds into a 3-inch black circle. This level sets your baseline ability and helps the instructors find out where the class is really at in terms of their skill level. You'll get split into pairs of two, and you'll start shooting a few different exercises a few times to help get over that recoil anticipation. And that'll be the first focus of the beginning of the class. If you've watched Pistol 1 on WPSN, the easy off and on exercise, that's pretty much what you'll be doing at the start of the class. As the class goes on, there will be more instruction on the actual trigger pull and the actual grip that you'll be shooting with. And Paul goes over both the advantages and disadvantages of different grip styles. If you've watched Pistol 1, this is going to be very familiar to you. Towards the middle of the day, there will be more of a focus on shooting cadence, and that's mainly shooting strings of fire with rhythmically rather than just quickly rapid firing, and trying to get faster by adding some standardization to your shooting and adding more rhythm to your actual shooting. Towards the end of the day, in the second half, there's going to be a lot of practice with drawing from the holster and shooting. By the end of the class, you'll be super comfortable with your draw. At the very end of the class, you're going to move out to shooting at longer distances. So they're going to take you from that 7-yard firing line, take you out to 15 yards, shoot a string of fire. Then you'll do 25 yards, shoot a string of fire, 35 yards, and all the way out to 50 yards, and then back to 25 yards again so that you can see your confidence improve. But overall, they will take you pretty far out and maximize the range that you can shoot with a pistol. And it's a really good exercise because it shows your level of improvement throughout just the single class. All right, as far as the instructors go, I have to say Paul is absolutely hilarious. You know, you would think that he would roll up in like a Humvee or some kind of crazy, maybe jumping out of a helicopter or something like that. The guy pulls up in a Chrysler Pacifica minivan, and I just thought that was really, really funny. There are no theatrics with the trainers themselves. They are the people that you see on camera. I think that's the coolest thing. The guys are really genuine, and it's really a great group of guys overall. The instructors love to have a good laugh, and the jokes are really, really funny. But you do need to keep in mind you have to have pretty thick skin. Some of the jokes, I'll say, landed with a couple of the guys pretty hard. So you need to be able to have a good laugh. Realize that when jokes happen, they're just to help you improve, really, more than anything. They might bite a little bit, but you got to keep in mind they're just to point out things that you need to be working on potentially. In terms of the instructor's skills, they are really good shooters. I was shocked just watching Paul. He does describe it at one point as finally seeing a like a finely cooked steak, and that really is what Paul is in terms of his shooting. You think that yourself is pretty good when you go to the range and you're comparing yourself to everybody else on the firing line. When you go to a class like this, the bar with the student is very high and the instructors are even higher. So it can show you what is possible. And even myself, I mean, I was probably the middle of the pack in this class. And so I definitely appreciated being able um, to see the skill level that's possible just watching Paul shoot. And then the last thing I'll say about the instruction itself, Paul is extremely, extremely knowledgeable, and he has thought through pretty much every situation and question you can think of. It's clear that they've thought about all of the dynamics of shooting pistols, and the only way that I can describe it is if you have a question, they're already ready with an answer, and it's a really well thought out answer. They've pretty much heard everything, and that just shows the experience of the instructors with WPS. All right, so now I wanted to talk about my personal key takeaways. And the Pistol 1 class, it really isn't about necessarily teaching you how to shoot a pistol. You're not going to be a master at the end, although you will see significant improvement, most likely. It's more about showing your flaws and what you need to work on, and then how to address those flaws moving forward. So, particularly with me, I shot it with a Glock 26 and I was shooting it with a small concealed carry pistol. I think there is an advantage of shooting the class with your EDC pistol versus a full-size pistol. You may be able to shoot a full-size pistol really, really well, but your EDC pistol is what you're going to be carrying every day. So, since Pistol 1 and Pistol 2 is such a practical fundamentals class, consider maybe using your concealed carry gun, even though most of the guys running the class are running bigger pistols. With my pistol, with a properly sighted in pistol, I was throwing a few shots low left. You're gonna use the same USPSA target all day, so you'll start to see those shots that you're throwing even within 7 yards. And when you're firing 1,000 rounds a day, you're gonna be throwing some shots. I would say that over the entire day, most of my shots were in the were in close to that 3 inch circle. Maybe it opened up to about a 4 or 5 inch circle, especially as we started shooting faster throughout the day. And I had thrown a couple that were right on the line of the A box. So those definitely hurt when you see them, but I think the hurt is probably a good thing. It really challenges your fundamentals, and even if you're an experienced shooter, it's a really good class to take just to show those things that you still need to be working on. Shooting stance is really important. I found I didn't realize how unimportant it was, but also how important it actually is. It's really important to moving. And so you can really shoot from any position in terms of where your feet are positioned. It really doesn't matter because it's all in your upper body for sure. But when you're actually standing and moving, that's where it starts to matter. So they do teach you to really pay attention to your stance, especially your footing, having more of a combat stance. And it's going to matter a whole lot more when you dive into Pistol 2 if you take both classes, because there's a lot of moving and shooting in Pistol 2. All right, another thing that I did is having shot mainly USPSA style matches for the most part. I got very used to doing emergency reloads, so just dropping the mag out, loading a new one in, and not really retaining the magazine. This class really challenges you in terms of your ability to remember your round count and making sure you've always got one in the pipe. So tactical reloads are definitely the primary focus of this class. It's an area I was really weak in going into the class, and it's an area that I'm still working on because that is the most practical type of reload. At the end of the day, you probably won't use emergency reloads, even though they're used pretty much all the time, emergency or speed reloads in USPSA style matches. The class also did reveal a training scar that I had that I didn't even realize I had picked up. I train a lot with one of those laser dry fire cartridges just because it's convenient to throw the cartridge in and then do some dry fire training. You'll see in a lot of my videos when I'm doing pistol optic reviews that I'll use those laser cartridges just to get the initial dial in of the actual optic or to verify it's zeroed out of the factory potentially. Um, so I use those a lot, but in using those cartridges, you typically only have to rack the slide on a Glock about a quarter of the way to set the striker. And I got used to doing that so much that by the end of the day, when it came to unloading and reloading the gun, it happened to me 2 times actually, where I didn't rack the slide far enough back when I was tired. This is after 8 hours of shooting. I typically don't shoot 8 hours straight. Um, in that last hour or two, it happened to me twice where I hadn't racked the slide far enough back so it didn't actually chamber the round. So it made me start working on press checks to ensure that that really is the case. And I realized that training with those little laser dry fire cartridges, it's not a good idea in the sense that you might pick up that scar of thinking that you've loaded a round in, but you've actually only racked it a quarter or a third of the way and not enough to actually chamber around. So if you're used to dry fire with that, dry fire is great. But if you're using those training cartridges, keep that in mind when you're working with your live ammo and your live firearm. Something else that I realized is that I don't practice malfunction training enough. In Pistol 1, they may not even teach malfunctions because it's so rare with semi-automatic pistols. But even with my Glock 26, I did have 2 malfunctions, and it was because of that issue of only racking the slide a quarter way. but I realized I had to think about it quite a bit because you just, if you're using a reliable semi-auto pistol, you're not really having malfunctions very often. So I definitely identified that I need to start simulating them with with snap caps, and I probably need to do some malfunction training a little more often so it just becomes more natural to me. Something else I learned a lot about was shooting cadence, and that was a big focus of the class. They will run you with a shot timer at one point and show you, kind of your cadence. And so you'll typically, shooters, when you're trying to go fast, you'll typically go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. But what they're really looking for is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the reason for that is because then between the recoil, you're transitioning between targets and it makes your target transitions faster. The importance of that didn't really occur to me, but Paul kind of shows you with a shot timer that it's just as fast to do 1, 2, slow transition, 1, 2, slow transition, 1, 2, versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so that's a really important key point that, wasn't fully aware to me before taking this class. I will say that if you do it that way and you start focusing on cadence, even though it'll be slower at first, you will be faster over time, and that'll keep you from plateauing by doing it the right way. The importance of this becomes a lot more important in Pistol 2, where a big focus is multi-target transitions. The last thing that I'll say is the coaching is excellent. You will get one-on-one time. The instructors will come up to you and they'll be right over your shoulder watching what you're doing. And the primary focus is going to be on safety, but they'll also give you really helpful skills for things or feedback for things that you probably don't realize that you're doing. One thing that I was doing that I didn't realize, and I got this from Scott Jedlinski, the Samurai Warrior Project, if you guys are familiar with that. But in order to find your dot fast, he promotes pushing out with the gun and then kind of pushing down so that the red dot just kind of falls into place. Paul really challenged my viewpoint on that because he mentioned that maybe I'm leaving some speed on the table if I don't just push out and have the dot right away. If I have that extra motion, maybe it's a little bit slower. And so, really small things like that. He doesn't say his way is best or anything like that, but he does encourage you to try different ways of doing things. And you might find that you improve overall. So, I'm still not 100% on which way I lean on that, but I've been kind of playing with both draws, and we'll see when I actually have more time to just sit down with a shot timer and see if that improves my times at all. So I'll say this, Pistol 1 was very helpful in showing some areas where I'm weaker, areas that I need to improve on. And while the class is basic because it is a Pistol 1 class, taking a class every now and then that's really focused on fundamentals can be extremely helpful. Just go into it with a humble perspective, go into it knowing you're not there to impress the instructors. You're there to learn about your own weaknesses so that you can improve further. And guys, at the end of the day, that's the entire reason that you're taking this class. It's to improve. So go in humble. Don't go in there cocky with any ego. All of the shooters are probably going to be very good there. And just go in with a lot of humility and be honest about the things that you need to improve on. And I think you'll get your money's worth out of this class 100%. So I'll close with this, guys. The group of guys that I was with was great. There was a couple women there as well, so I don't want to just say guys, but it was really a good group of people. I made some friends. Definitely go out there and you'll network with some like-minded people. Train together. You'll really like the instructors. It was a great time. Be able to have a good laugh. Be able to make fun of yourself a little bit when you make a mistake, and you will be good to go. This class is definitely worth taking, and I highly recommend it. Stay tuned next week because I will be reviewing Pistol 2 next week. Thanks for your time, guys. Have a great week.